President Trump was speaking at a military tank factory in Ohio. He was talking about national security, talking about the economy, but also talking about John McCain.
McCain didn't get the job done for our great vets and the VA. And the other thing is, we're in a war in the Middle East that McCain pushed so hard.
Joining us now is Republican Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio. He was with the president at that plant yesterday in Lima, Ohio. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. And I just want to cover this quickly, if we can, before we get on to other subjects. You were in the room there. What went through your head when the president said what he said about John McCain?
Well, I think what's come to light in most recent days is, of course, the use of the discredited dossier, and it's being placed in McCain's hand by Democratic Party operatives, by Christopher Steele, who's being paid by Hillary Clinton and by the Democratic National Committee.
I'm sorry.
For the
what does that have to do with McCain's
legitimizing.
But what does that have to do with John McCain's funeral, Congressman?
I'm not talking about his funeral. I'm saying that over the recent days, the attempts to use John McCain to legitimize the discredited dossier for the purposes of initiating an investigation against the president has come to light in testimony that you're very much aware of, that McCain's associate, David Kramer, testified that Christopher Steele even said that the dossier was being given to McCain for the purposes of legitimizing it. Now, my expectation here is that if John McCain had known that this information was Democratic Party funded, Hillary Clinton funded information, that it had not been verified, as Christopher Steele has now testified, that he probably wouldn't have had anything to do with it. And that, I think, is largely, on the minds of people as we hear the president doing these attacks. I think John McCain is a national hero. I worked with him on national security issues. I cannot believe that if he had not been deceived and had been told that this information was being paid for by Hillary Clinton, that Christopher Steele himself was being paid for by Hillary Clinton, that he would have had anything to do with it.
You're criticizing John McCain. I'm surprised to hear you say this. This is not what I expected, sir. John McCain was given the dossier.
I'm not saying one criticism of John McCain.
John McCain, what you're saying is, had he known better, he wouldn't have given something that could be incriminating to the FBI. All he did was get this and give it to the FBI.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Actually, that's not all that occurred. As you know, David Kramer testified.
David Kramer is someone that John McCain knew. David Kramer is someone that John McCain knew. John McCain.
He was an associate working with John McCain.
No, he didn't work for John McCain.
As I said, because I did not criticize John McCain, what I said was that I truly believe, having worked with John McCain on national security issues for a decade, that if he had been told that Christopher Steele, when he met with David Kramer and gave him the dossier, was being paid for by Hillary Clinton, by the Democratic National Committee, and that Christopher Steele would later testify, I didn't verify any of this material.
Congressman, again, none of this gets to my question. None of this gets to my question. No, John McCain was given the dossier. He gave it to the FBI.
Under false pretenses.
That was John.
Under
doesn't
false
matter
pretenses.
why he gave it to the FBI. I still don't understand why.
False pretenses do matter.
Does it justify, Congressman, does it justify the President of the United States at a White House funded event in Ohio, in your home state, talking about the funeral of a human being, let alone a war hero like John McCain who passed away in August?
Well, I can tell you that the people in the room certainly were incredibly surprised, and I certainly personally was saddened that the information that the president was there to celebrate a tank plant, that he was there to celebrate an accomplishment where this tank plant was slated to be closed, and now as a result of the Trump increases of defense spending is now going to go up to 1,000 people with tanks rolling off the line to help us deter our adversaries and aggressors. Certainly that's saddening, but I think that you cannot lose the fact that this is a news story of the day, as you know, because of the recent...
You were saddened.
Yes, absolutely.
You were saddened.
The recent testimony that's been released.
Did you tell the president that you were saddened?
I didn't have a chance to speak to the president after he spoke. But certainly, it's very public, and I'm certainly telling you very much the day after, and certainly the people around me there, I expressed my sadness that he was doing so. But again, with the news of the day, you have to understand that we now know that John McCain was under false pretenses given this information and took action.
I do not understand. John McCain's actions with the Steele dossier seem to me to be completely irrelevant to bringing up his funeral arrangements before a crowd in Ohio. Just full stop. I don't understand why you would bring that up unless you would think that it would justify the president.
I didn't, as you know.
Okay, well, I don't know. But you brought it up.
But I think that, no, Actually, no, I brought up the dossier, which the president also brought up while he was there. You didn't play that portion of the tape.
But do you think it
But he also
justifies,
brought
does
up
it
that
justify,
portion.
does it justify talking about John McCain's funeral arrangements?
I believe that the President of the United States needs to defend his own comments. But I do believe that while we look at the dossier and the Mueller report, and as this story is unfolding, that we need to look at the actions of the Hillary Clinton campaign, the Democratic National Committee, the fact that they funded this dossier, they funded Christopher Steele, they got this information to John McCain under false pretenses, they entered it into court as official evidence, again, under false pretenses.
John McCain's actions here, John McCain's actions, all he did was give it to the FBI. That was John McCain's role in all of it. Again, in all honesty, and there's plenty of time to discuss the dossier. We may have the Mueller report in the coming days. We may see what role that played. We know it did not launch the Russia investigation. We know that George Papadopoulos was the impetus for the launching of the Russia investigation. So that may all come to pass. That might be a discussion that we will have. Again, my question to you, and I was going to ask about, I want to talk about Lordstown. I want to talk about the economy. But my question to you was, what was your reaction when the president went after John McCain out loud? And the first thing you brought up was the dossier. And it was only after we discussed it.
The president actually brought it up. You didn't play that portion of the tape. You weren't there, and I was, and you didn't play that portion of the tape. So maybe you're not familiar with the fact that that is actually what he also spoke about.
I know.
And my comments are relating to that because I think it's an important issue. It's one that you gloss over. I truly believe that if the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee funds Christopher Steele and under false pretenses,
then you should talk about John McCain.
And then goes through John McCain and gives him false pretenses of the information that he has, that it's wrong. And I truly believe that.
So John McCain gave it to the FBI.
I worked with John McCain. John McCain had known that this was political opposition research.
The FBI already had the information.
Had anything to do with it.
The FBI already had the information at that point. James Comey getting his hands on the dossier from John McCain did nothing in the investigation.
Right,
there.
and they entered it into court and never ever told the court that it was politically funded opposition research by Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee.
The shiny object of the dossier in relation to how the president is treating John McCain. Again, I'm genuinely surprised, Congressman, that you brought that up as a member of the Armed Services Committee.
John,
again,
perhaps you should look at the tape of what the president actually said.
I was watching, and I've read the president. I know very well that the president
you're aware that he mentioned the dossier.
Yeah, and I am, and I also am aware he's mentioned health care.
Right. So don't be surprised that I'm bringing it up in the context of his comments.
John McCain's veterans issues. Okay, but again, in your mind, it doesn't justify talking about. You stick by your saddened. Yes.
I'm sorry?
You stick by you were saddened by it.
I said that. I mean it.
Okay.
But what you needed to acknowledge is what you've just said, which you weren't saying before, is I didn't just bring this up, the president did. In the press conference, the president brought up the dossier. That's what my comments were related to.
Okay.
And I think it's a very important point. I think it was a deception all around. The fact that this was paid for by Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee as political opposition research, and the manner in which it was used was absolutely wrong.
Okay. And again,
it does a disservice to John McCain. I think it does a disservice to the country.
All right. Congressman, I do want to ask one question.